Morning, Tim, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025.
Yes, yes. 2024 was a doozy,
That's
and
right.
2025 went off well.
That's
Uh,
a good start. Yeah.
well,
I,
except for New Orleans and what
yeah.
happened there. That was a mess.
And there was a big shooting in Queens, too.
Yeah,
Like a dozen
subways.
people. Yeah.
Crime is really starting to show as a result of the border policies, I think.
Yeah. Well, before we get started, I just want to say for all of those that are new to the channel, please hit subscribe on YouTube. Make all your comments via YouTube. You can like via YouTube. It really helps to grow the channel. Gives us a lot of opportunity to grow this podcast. That's what we're looking to do. If you find the stories amusing, if you find the information that we're providing interesting, we just ask you to please subscribe, like, comment below on the YouTube channel. I know I do post this on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms, but doing it through YouTube gives us the biggest help. Thanks again. So, Tim, having said that, 2025, you say started off as a doozy. It always does start that way.
For
And
some reason over this weekend, I was thinking about my friend John, who I worked with, who was just the greatest guy in the world. Do you remember the story about him? The classic story.
that there
He
were
went
many who
to
did.
he went to Danny's retirement party,
Yeah,
and everybody in the industry showed up at Danny's party. Danny was big noise. All the central banks showed up, and everybody sent an emissary. And John showed up, and John was just a great guy. But he had one problem, and it came in a bottle about this big, and it it had a big picture of a ship on it, Cutty Sark. Remember?
that's right.
When
That's
John
right.
went sailing on the good ship Cutty Sark, there was no telling what he was going to be. So he shows up at Danny's party, and he's been sailing along. And a mutual friend, Charlie, sees the shape of John. Knows he's not going to do himself any good at all. John's legless. He's so drunk he can't even speak. So Charlie spins John around, walks him down a few steps, pours him into a cab. He knows he lives in Bloomfield, New Jersey, takes his wallet out, gives his address to the cab driver, pays the cab driver. Off goes John, the cab with John in tow. Shows up at his house 40 minutes later in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Cab driver rings the bell. His wife comes down. He says, "Look, I got your husband in the cab. He's drunk. I'll help you get him in the cab if you want. He's still in the house." She looks in the cab. She says, "No." She says, "No. What do you mean, no? You don't want him in the house because he's drunk?" She says, "No, I don't want him in the house because he's not my husband. My husband's upstairs asleep in my bed." He says, "Well, who do I got in the cab?" She said, "I don't know." They open the door, shine a light. She says, "Oh, that's John. We bought the house from him. He never changed his address on his license. He's in, he's in the wrong house."
No idea where he lives. He knows he's in town
That
somewhere.
story went around the market
Yeah.
like in a minute. Just everybody in the world knew what happened to John. A classic. And I can't. Can you imagine how many times that happened to him?
Yeah. Yeah. You told the story about the other guy in London, Herbie. Put him
Oh
into a
yeah,
cab. The cab pulls away. He's on the other side
that was
smiling at
Nick.
you.
Yeah, Nick couldn't get rid of Herbie. They were in Gallipoli, this belly dancing place, and now it's time for Herbie to go, and Nick can't get rid of Herbie, so he pours him in a cab, and the cab pulls away, and there's Herbie. He walked through the checkered cab. There he is on the other side. Starts all over again. Yeah, he was a classic.
Yeah, you
We
don't
lived
find
at
that.
a time, it was like a theme park.
Yeah,
All these people pulling through. I remember Henry calling you a walking eyesore, and
that's
you
right.
worked, you worked me off.
Henry had a quote that I use so often. Henry, How you doing, Henry? Trying to make an honest living in a dishonest business. He said that. I guess it was 1978.
There was nothing honest about the way he was trying to make that living.
Trying
There
to
was a
make an
big
honest
misnomer.
living in a dishonest business, and it's still so true today. 50 years later.
So getting to these markets, I mean, the factors driving the markets clearly now are all about the Trump administration. And I've been reading a lot of stuff about defense stocks. And even though the world is probably more frightening than it was, and there's going to be a buildup in defense, they're going to cut costs too.
Yeah,
Those are,
margins have got to be cut.
yeah.
If you
So,
believe in Doge, you believe that margins are going to be cut.
well, you these defense contractors have had it so good for so long that it's hard to imagine that they're going to be able to give ground. They got so many people on the inside of procurement now that they've cultivated over the years.
I worked with a guy who was former defense. He worked for Drew. He was like a Drew's right hand man in terms of buying other companies. Really bright guy. And we talked about the $20,000 hammer. And he said, "Yeah, there's a lot of need for it because there's so much litigation. There's so many things that go on within these defense companies that they price everything up by 6,000, 7,000, 10,000% just to make up for what they're going to have on the other side." That was his reasoning, but I'm sure a lot went into Mitch McConnell's pocket and Nancy Pelosi's pocket and everyone else.
Who knows, really? I mean, the numbers are so big that just a minor skim becomes a massive number.
Yeah,
So there's that. But the world's not getting any quieter. It's still a crazy place. I mean, peace may break out in the Ukraine, which could help a little bit, but we still got to replace all those weapons. And there's cross currents here. This is probably the year of cross currents. You could look at Trump's administration previously and see what that did, but this is a different animal altogether.
completely,
Yeah.
completely. I remember when Trump was first running, and some of the detractors were saying one of the benefits of Trump is he wants to be loved, he wants to be remembered, he wants to be an icon, he wants history to remember him, and he's going to do a lot of crazy things to be remembered. And here we are 4 years later. He doesn't have a second term to worry about. He doesn't have any of these other issues that he had in the first term to worry about. He knows who the players are. He knows who to trust and who not to trust. So this really could be an interesting 4 years.
I don't know about that part about knowing who the players are. I mean, a lot of these people, you really don't know who the hell they are. When push comes to shove, we found time and time again that they just react in the strangest, unknowable ways. You just can't tell. I don't envy this guy trying to. He's got the whole swamp against him.
Yeah.
So these are, in
I
terms
saw,
of the markets.
I saw an interesting thing that his incoming chief of staff, the woman who was his campaign manager, said. She said no tweets, no comments, no interviews until the incoming president takes office. So they're trying to put a lockdown on some of these comments that are coming out.
Well, I think the big difference now is that Twitter is now X, and they're certainly going to be. I don't know about unbiased either way, but certainly more fair to him because the original tweet wasn't. It was
Yeah,
pretty
they
one
blocked him.
sided.
Yeah,
So I think we basically have a ramp to the mid-year election, and everything's got to be done by the mid-year, which means that they're going to have to re-elect Johnson. I think the Republicans are going to have to hold their nose and do that because if they don't, they can put this whole thing on hold for a month or so.
yeah.
And I don't think they have the luxury.
And Johnson was endorsed by Trump the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it was a lukewarm endorsement, but he was endorsed by Trump the other day. And the majority is not a huge majority. He doesn't have a lot of room to play,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in Johnson's shoes.
and still nobody knows what's going on with Matt Getz.
Yeah, it was
You know?
looking more and more like a deal, though, right? To get,
Yeah, it does because he's not complaining. He's not clamoring to get back into anywhere else. He's like he's got some other purpose waiting.
for the benefit of somebody that might still be watching, when Getz was presented by Trump as his choice for
To the Attorney General.
Attorney General, I had launched the position that there was a deal afoot, that Trump knew that Getz wasn't going to be elected or confirmed, but he was basically getting him out of Johnson's hair because Trump was an agitator. Even though Getz did in the end support Johnson, he was a thorn in the Johnson side because the malcontents Republicans gathered around him.
Yeah, we labeled that podcast Gates and Switch.
Yeah, it was gate and switch.
Gates and Switch.
So I don't know what he's going to show up doing. I mean, there was talk about him in Florida, but that seems to have died too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that they released his
Ethics
the
committee.
exit, there's a lot of MAGA Republicans are saying the House has spent over, what was it, something like $17 million to settle claims, sexual claims against. And now I don't know if that was over the last 20 years, 50 years, year. I don't know what it was. But I think it was Massey who was saying, let's release all of them. Yeah, we can't just release one. Let's release all of them. Let's open the door. Let's see what everybody's hiding behind there.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know.
Kind of reminds me. You probably don't remember when there was a scandal in the House with the White House pages. Do you remember that?
I do remember the White House pages. Yeah.
It was a homosexual scandal, and I think that was really the last time. Prior to that was the last time the House actually enjoyed support of the public. They've lost all support. That and they were writing checks. That was the other thing. They were writing checks that nobody paid. I mean, it's a cesspool. And it has been a cesspool. It's bought each other off all these years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good luck.
a lifetime job, and you get honorable people that try and run, and they just get defeated and run down.
Well, somebody said to me, I guess not too long ago, within the last year, somebody said, I bet you could get some support to run for office. I said, first of all, no interest. But secondly, let's say I find somebody that wants to support me, gives me $10 million or $15 million for my campaign. How am I going to say no to this guy? If he asks me for something. And it takes so much money to be elected today. You're owned before you get there.
You think about one of the most ethical people that I've ever dealt with from this market, Mike, who ran for Congress against one of the most, what was the term? It was a Queens Democrat. I forget that it's like the worst congressman, according to his voting record and where he's been, and Mike lost 88-12.
Yeah.
And this was
Just
a guy.
lost again.
Yeah, he did.
Lost again, and he said to me, they want me to run again. He said, but I just don't have it in me to do it.
Right. And
It's
this
such a
was
losing fight.
this was a guy who was a Marine. He was an airplane pilot. He was an attorney. Right. He's done so much, and he's really just a straight and narrow, honest, ethical person as you could imagine. And they don't want him anywhere near the halls of Congress.
Well, we really haven't said anything here. It's too early in 2025 for things to shake out. The first thing is we got to find out if we have a speaker, because that will set the timetable for this whole agenda.
Now that vote should be next week, right? I think it's.
Isn't it today or Friday?
Is it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Today or
Friday, baby. If that doesn't happen, this thing could go. It's a wild card, So that's the first thing. We got to see who the speaker is, and that will tell you whether or not the House is firmly behind Trump and ready to pursue this agenda. Then we got the budget ceiling. They got to live with that. We got the tax cuts. If they can't get it together enough to keep the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, we got a real problem. This market's going down the tubes.
But I also think some of his his cabinet nominations, RFK. I think that's an important one, and I don't know if he's going to get confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard, another important one. Kash Patel, they're talking about FBI. He wants to open up a lot of those. So not on the economic side, but just on the fundamental side.
Well, I think first comes first. Johnson election,
Mm-hmm.
and then whether or not they're going to keep the tax cuts. That's a really big factor. If these tax cuts go, there's a tax hike of like 30%. This market's going down 5, maybe 10% easily if that doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but we're going to know more in the next couple of days. So with that, I mean, we don't have a lot to say here. Might as well sign off and pick
Yeah.
up things later on in the week.
I don't know if the economic numbers. I don't know if payroll numbers tomorrow. Probably is, right? Unemployment number.
All these numbers are going to be looked at
Yeah, I don't think it's going to. As my comment was going to be, even if there's a payroll number tomorrow, I don't know if it's going to have much significance considering we just come off the holiday.
Well, we don't believe them from this administration anyway.
Right.
So they're good. There's that, which has been true of the numbers, and we got a new administration coming, a new sheriff in town. Things are going to change. So these are old numbers. They're not leading indicators. All right. So with that,
We used to refer to them as the misleading indicators.
misleading. Yeah, they are.
Misleading indicators. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Tim. Well, once again, Happy New Year.
You too.
Enjoy your sun and fun.
Take care.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. And once again, please subscribe, comment, and like all through the YouTube channel. Thanks again.